You know, when I was asked to do this piece, I was asked how I would respond to the group of seven, and immediately I thought of Lawren Harris. I think just because I love his paintings that he completed in the Rocky Mountains, where you know he's experimenting with abstraction, and these mountain ranges are sort of in the paintings become these sort of smooth, shimmering things, and I think they're amazing. Um, his pieces also remind me of you know early experimental music that uses signal processing. So, in you know even as early as the 40s, sound artists, usually just sort of musicians, were experimenting with how they could manipulate sound with technology. So there was actually a whole lot of activity happening, actually at U of T, at the Electronic Music Center. It doesn't exist anymore, but you know, it basically what you had was groups of artists, especially in the 60s, who were playing with just sine waves. So they would generate tones, and then they would feed them through these massive, massive machines where they would manipulate them, and so they become beeps, boops, and whelps, and sort of alarm sounds. And so they were physically manipulating the signal path electricity of the sound and then creating these weird audio effects. So basically any audio effect you can think of has been created, at one point in time, been created by somebody in a big, huge room full of radio equipment who was physically manipulating in order to do loops and delays. So looking at Harris's work, I thought a lot about the idea of signals because in mountain ranges, I've spent some time in Banff, and sound travels weirdly around mountains. Signals travel really weirdly around mountains. You have the phenomena of an acoustic shadow, which is if you are a certain distance up on a mountain range and the wind is coming behind you down, you won't hear what's below you at all, even though it's quite close. So you have these really strange shifts in perception that happen when you're within mountain ranges, and weird things happen to cell phone signals, weird things happen to Wi-Fi. So I was really interested in the idea of signals and using the body to generate signals. At the same time, too, my work takes place outside. I'm generally not a very good gallery artist. I think I've always used landscape in my work, and it's always been making these things that are intended to be used outside the gallery. So thank God we have painting in here, because then at least there's something on the wall. But so I wanted to bring people outside, and Mississauga is really, really interesting. I mean, the idea of bringing the group of seven here and looking at these paintings within this space is sort of involves an element of displacement. And then in my piece, what happens is it reimagines outside, which is super flat, as a mountain range. So as you're walking along, you're getting these sounds that coincide with elevations. So you are going up to sort of shimmering peaks where you're going to get more clear signal sounds, and you're going to walk through to areas where the sound is kind of muddy and kind of dissonant and kind of crunchy, right? And then so you're going to be experiencing this space through these sounds and reimagining Mississauga as a mountain. The mountain range is, I think, 3,500 kilometers away. So I often, when I've been working on this piece, I've been thinking about the idea of, if you make a sound here, like if you were to walk outside Mississauga or the Arga Mississauga and shout, and let's assume that sound doesn't actually decay, because sound decays as you make it. If sound didn't decay, your voice would hit the mountain range where Harris painted his piece in about a day. That's crazy. So I think a lot about the idea of time, distance, and signals, and then how the body of the audience member can actually become a part of that.